And welcome back, everybody, to the second hour of the Edge radio broadcast.
Hi, Daniel. I got to hear during the break they're talking about democracy in Iraq.
Is that going to happen?
Well, first of all, is America a democracy?
No, it's not. It's a republic.
That is correct. You know when the last democracy existed on planet Earth? 2,300 years ago. It was the Delian League. The Delian League was actually an oligarchy, but it's the closest that any human civilization has ever come to a democracy. Oligarchy just means that the people who got to vote had a vested interest in the nation or city-state they were voting on behalf of. They were the landowners. They were in business. They made a net contribution to it. Now, the Delian League crumbled because it did what we are trying to do in Iraq. It tried to compel compliance. It tried to force other states to accept its value system and its political system. And once it moved from the people choosing to forcing, compelling the acceptance of its form of government, it went to and became an imperial system, and it died. What's really interesting here is we need to understand that for a democracy to exist, let's use that term instead of republic, but for republic/democracy to exist, there's a culture, a societal structure that is necessary for it to exist. The culture has to praise and value freedom. They have to value choice. They have to value education. And they have to have a sufficient amount of integrity within the system that will allow enterprise, prosperity, economy to flourish. Those are the four ingredients that are required within a culture for it to sustain a government of the people, even if it's a republic.
Yep.
The conditions that cause tyrannies to happen are a culture that disdains choice, a culture that disdains education, a culture that does not have enough morality or trust to generate a prosperous individual economy for people to be able to risk capital.
Yeah.
So those are the basic understandings. 90% of the countries where the majority of the people consider themselves to be Christians are republics. They have freedom, they value choice, they value education, and they are prosperous. 90% of them. 90% of the countries where the majority of the people consider themselves to be Muslims are dictatorships. They have no freedoms, they have no choice, they have no economy, and they're educationally as impoverished as they are impoverished in all of those areas. So you have to say, so there's something about Islam that's causing, it's actually 95% of Islamic countries to be dictatorships, and there's something inherent in Christianity that is causing 90% of the countries where the majority of the people are Christian for democracy to prevail, and for us to try to establish a republic in a country that has the culture that breeds tyranny is foolish. You've got to understand what is it about the Scriptures, the teachings of those disparate views of life that cause one to succeed and the other to fail. Now, the answer is quite simple. We talked about the first earlier. Yahweh's Scriptures are all about choice. They constantly harping on, I want you to know, I want you to understand. The more you know, the more you understand, the better decision you're going to make, and I want you to be free to choose. In Islam, it's just the opposite. Islam is based on submit and obey. Islam itself means submission. Every Islamic cleric will tell you that democracy and republic government is completely alien to Islam, because in Islam, Muhammad said that you must obey the cleric and king, and you must submit to their authority. There is no choice in Islam.
Yeah. Okay,
So that's the reason why it will never prevail in Iraq, because we're ignorant of the culture necessary to make it work.
Okay. Well, I noticed for those who did not hear the first hour, Craig not only exposed most of all false teachings of Islam, I'm sure there's a lot more, but he also took about half of Christianity's false teachings regarding, what did you say, Craig, Christmas?
Well, Christmas and Easter are pagan, are both satanic holidays. They're both conceived in Babylon.
And then what about the cross? I want to start with that.
Yeah, there's actually no mention of the cross in Scriptures.
What is that?
Stros is the Greek word, and the Greek word means upright pole. And throughout, prophetically in the Old Covenant Scriptures and speaking in the New Covenant Scriptures, the concept of the upright pole is God's way of reaching down to man and lifting man up by his sacrifice. But the term has no connotation whatsoever to a cross. The reason that cross was substituted for the word pole is because the Roman Catholic Church, being founded by Constantine, who was a sun god worshiper, Mithras, the symbol of Satanism from its inception has been a cross. It has to do with the fact that the sun crosses the equator at noon on the vernal equinox, and Mother Earth is impregnated 9 months later, which is the winter solstice. So they celebrate F star, which is the vernal equinox, which we now call Easter, and they celebrated a holiday that coincided with Christmas, because that's when the sun is reborn and the days become longer again. And so their symbol had been the cross. So a Catholic priest decided to change the word stros, which means upright pole, to the word cross.
So, Craig, would you say the song Old Rugged Cross is a pagan song?
Well, the term cross is not found in Scripture, and so if you're talking about crosses, like Constantine saying, I saw a symbol of the cross in front of the sun, and in this sign I will conquer, he wasn't talking about the God who inspired the Bible. He was talking about his adversary, which is called Satan.
So is a cross a graven image?
Oh, absolutely. It's a cross, a graven image. Yeah, any image that is made by man that man reveres is a graven image and would fall under the condemnation of the second commandment.
Well, I think that pretty much shocked most of our audience. So the Muslims, I see, Craig, you are an equal opportunity offender, but can you really offend somebody with the truth? That's the question.
But my job is, in fact, the job of all who work for Yahweh. I work for Yahweh. That does not make me perfect. I am as flawed in fact, probably more flawed than the average guy. But the advantage of working for Yahweh is that he has an owner's manual. It's called the Scriptures. And if you look in the Scriptures and you take your time to study what they actually say in Hebrew and Greek, and there's wonderful tools to do that today. You don't have to be a Hebrew and Greek scholar. There's such fantastic interactive software now that you can click on any word in the Old or New Covenant Scriptures, and it'll tell you the full meaning of that word in English.
Would a person get closer to God if they pursued the avenue of going to the original Scriptures like you suggest?
Absolutely. It's overwhelming how much more magnificent they are than our feeble renderings. And one of the things that you find is how many times, 7,000 times, Yahweh uses his own name to tell us who he is. And then when you get to see him, actually using his own name and telling people to use his own name and tell us what he wants and what he doesn't want and the instructions that he gives us, it is and all the prophecies. It's a magnificent and rewarding experience.
All right, Craig, we have a question come in on the Fast Blast for you. What do you see might be occurring in the year 2005? Will we be attacked in another 9/11 or something worse?
Well, what the Scripture talks about America in Isaiah 17 and 18, and again, if you want to understand it, this is really something you have to go and amplify it from the original languages. Now, if you want to go to the website, you can go to prophetofdoom.net and look up for free in the future history, and I discuss Isaiah 17 and 18. It describes America, and in its description of America, it says that our largest cities will be destroyed. Now, I cannot tell you if that's going to happen in the next 5 years or in the next 25 years. But I can tell you with great confidence that within the next 25 years, America's largest cities will be destroyed, and they will be destroyed by Islam.